coronavirus. President, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you so much. Good afternoon to all of you. First of all, I want to express my full sympathy for those who are suffering of the coronavirus, and I want to thank the medical staff who are treating them and doing an outstanding job, not only in Europe but all over the world. As you know, the coronavirus has brought governments and health systems throughout Europe to work at all different levels to contain this virus. And so does the Commission, with the support of our agency, the ECDC, and in very close cooperation with the WHO. You've witnessed that from the very beginning of the outbreak of the coronavirus, the European Union has acted. We have, for example, activated our alert system immediately. We have an ongoing risk assessment that is being carried out in close coordination with all the member states. I think very important is our European Health Security Committee that is coordinating all these different national measures so that we have a very comprehensive approach to contain the virus. We have informed you on a regular basis over the last weeks about the support that the Commission provides to the national authorities in very close cooperation with the agencies. ECDC has announced today that the risk level has risen from moderate to high for people in the European Union. In other words, the virus continues to spread. We all know that the many, many different actions that are needed to address coronavirus are very multifaceted. They are very manifold, and since 8 weeks, we're working intensively on these different work strands. The Commission has been addressed all these work strands. We have a situation that is very complex, and it requires on one side very swift action, and on the other side a strong coordination on all the levels and all the different sectors, not only on the European level but of course on the national level, and then a very comprehensive and coherent approach towards the topic from all 27 member states and the European Union. This is why today we are launching the Corona Response Team. This Corona Response Team brings together all the different strands of action that have been in place since many, many weeks. You have witnessed their outstanding work, but also brings in place in the Corona Response Team the new ones, the new work streams, the emerging work streams. The Corona Response Team, we have given you a graph. Perhaps you move a bit aside. Thank you so much. You have it here on the screen, and you must have the slide 2. It has basically 3 main pillars. The first pillar is the medical field. As you can see, it includes topics from prevention and procurement. There are relief measures, information, and foresight. It's always in close cooperation with the ECDC and our European Medicines Agency. The second big and important column is the pillar that covers mobility, from transport to travel advice and also to the Schengen-related questions. The third pillar covers the economy. It is looking in depth at various business sectors, such as tourism or transport, trade, but of course it's looking also at the value chains and at the broader macroeconomic picture we have. To bundle this, we also have in parallel launched today a website on the Coronavirus Response Team where all the informations we've gathered over all the weeks and that come on a daily basis are collected and bundled so that there is a direct access to the very complex, wide-reaching work the Corona Response Team is doing. You see on the slide 2 that there are other topics that are presented on the website and worked on in the Corona response team, as, for example, news, press releases, calendar, social media, statistics, which are important on a daily basis from all over the different questions that occur in this scenario, the general informations like access to studies or links to others, the roles and responsibility again if you have different questions that have to be addressed. Allow me now to introduce the 5 commissioners who will be working together on all these different topics. It is Janusz Lenarczyk, who is in charge of crisis management. It is Stella Kyriakides, who is in charge of all the health issues. It is Ylva Johansson, who is in charge of border-related issues. It is Adina Valian, who is in charge of mobility, and Paolo Gentiloni, who is dealing with the macroeconomic aspects. And I would like to invite the different commissioners now to present their aspects for the day, because this is a situation where on a daily basis we have actual news and topics we want to work on.
Commissioner Lenarczyk, please.
Madam President, colleagues, commissioners, everybody, welcome warmly to our Emergency Response Coordination Center. I have 3 points to raise at this occasion. First, on EU response and coordination. As the outbreak intensified, EU President activated the Commission's rapid alert system and asked me to initiate a strengthened coordination among our services. For more than a month now, in my capacity as the European Emergency Response Coordinator, I have been chairing regular meetings of the Crisis Coordination Committee to ensure the overall coordination of all Commission services and the European External Action Service. All the services are fully engaged in monitoring and supporting efforts to respond to all facets of this epidemics. However, overcoming this challenge also requires coordination of various decision-making levels and sectors inside the member states themselves. And that's why we have called at the last EPSCO Council of Health Ministers to introduce cross-sectorial coordination also inside their countries. My second point is on preparedness and on contingency planning. What we have learned so far, especially due to what China has been experiencing, is that every country needs to get ready. Globalization has left its mark everywhere. While we should not give in to panic, the situation is likely to still get worse, so we need to be prepared, and time is of essence here. That is why we have focused on preparedness and contingency measures across policies by supporting sharing of information, assessing the needs, and ensuring a coherent EU-wide response. We base this work on scientific evidence and expert recommendations, notably from European Centre for Disease Prevention and Control. My colleagues will update you about our efforts to address ramifications of this outbreak on healthcare systems and also beyond, affecting certain economic sectors, global supply chains and stock markets. Third, and my last point, is about solidarity. This epidemic is a global challenge. No country can deal with it alone. We need to work together at all levels, from local communities through member states, through regions and internationally. To support global efforts, as you already know, the Commission has mobilized substantial initial funding of more than €230 million for the World Health Organization, for research and for the pharmaceutical industry. We are looking into further possible funding. In addition, our Union Civil Protection Mechanism enables significant co-financing and mobilization of offers of assistance upon request of countries in need. And it is here, in this EU Emergency Response Coordination Centre, which is working round the clock, coordinating all collaboration between civil protection and emergency departments in member states, that we lay our confidence that we will be able to face this challenge. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Kyriakides, please.
Madam President, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, as of this morning, we have 2,100 confirmed cases in 18 EU member states, and we have 38 citizens who have lost their lives, and I share the President's condolences to those families affected. We are clearly faced with a rapidly changing situation. Last Friday, following the call from member states of the EPSCO Council on February 13th, we launched an accelerated joint procurement for personal protective equipment in 18 member states. We expect to receive offers within 1 week, and we will proceed in the swiftest way possible. As we speak, the European Centre for Disease Prevention and Control publishes the update of its rapid risk assessment, in which they raise the risk of infection in the EU from low moderate to high. Different member states face different challenges in relation to the COVID-19 outbreak. Italy is facing a situation which is not the same as other member states. It is, however, for all, an evolving situation which changes rapidly, and we all need to be ready for further developments. As we had said from the very beginning, what is crucial in facing up to this challenge is coordination and a comprehensive approach. This is why, last Friday, I sent a letter to all EU health ministers urging them to pay particular attention to measures for preparedness and response in the following areas: sufficient resources in the healthcare sector for care management, sufficient laboratory capacities for testing and active contact tracing, adequate public health capacities at points of entry, for example at airports, and targeted risk and crisis communication to the public and healthcare workers. Today and tomorrow, I will personally be in contact with all health ministers again to share and discuss the ECDC risk assessment and to discuss our coordination and to hear their level of preparedness. This will be further discussed in detail at the EPSCO Council, which will be held on Friday. In closing, I would like to say that although this developing situation is of clear concern, it is not a time for panic or misinformation, fueling more anxiety. We all need to remain calm and focused in order to get on with the work needed to fight this disease. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Johansson, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam President. When it comes to the borders, we have started a group, the COVID-19 Borders Group, that now have weekly video conferences. This group includes all the member states, but also the Schengen-associated countries and the Frontex European Border and Coast Guard Agency and the Council General Secretariat. So far, these conferences has been focusing very much on how the awareness of the challenges at the borders, and I must tell you that there is a full and good awareness on this issue from all the member states, and they have this close cooperation together with the health authorities, and this is, of course, very essential. So far, there have been no reported problems with this coordination with the health authorities, and I can tell you that so far, no member state has had any indication that I will have any internal border checks inside the Schengen area. So the work is going on, There has also been some discussions on the visa mechanism, but because of the time lag for visas, I think that it's better to concentrate on the border crossing points and any measures that can be taken there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Vălean, please.
Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, the coronavirus crisis had a huge impact on the transport sector, as it was expected, and it was from the very beginning. This is why, from the very beginning, all the EU transport services, and I'm talking about DG Move, I'm talking about the European Aviation Safety Agency, Maritime Safety Agency, European Rail Agency, this shows all modes, were involved from the very beginning, acting, monitoring, giving advice, coordinating with member states and stakeholders to have a very good look and a present image of what is going on in terms of transport. The agency disseminated all necessary information, such as travel advice, on a regular basis since the beginning of the crisis. I'm very happy that we are going to have a website so that it will be very easy for people interested to check in one place very up-to-date information. From our perspective, for passengers, they will have exhaustive information on transport and coronavirus, and we will have a clear overview of the options available, including refunds. This is what we are doing today to prepare the information for passengers and people in travel. What travelers should know, first and foremost, is that at European level we have a very robust set of rules for the passengers' rights. It is enforced at European level, and it may apply also to situations like this one. My final word is that it is absolutely crucial to maintain the mobility of citizens as far as possible. We need the transport services to provide regular services, seamless, and of course, if one at least to be mentioned, it is for the health emergency response. As I said, in the meantime, we continue to liaise with our stakeholders to quantify also the financial impact on the transport sector, and I'm sure about this my colleague Commissioner Gentiloni will speak more on the financial impact. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Gentiloni, please.
Thank you. And good morning. In presenting our winter forecast, I made clear that the duration of the outbreak and of the containment measures represented a key downside risk. What has happened since then? First, it has become clear that the short-term impact on the Chinese economy is likely to be significant, as the striking drop in the Purchasing Manager Index data for February indicates. As you know, the index fell to a record low of 35.7 from 50 in January. Moreover, spillovers outside of China have increased over the past 10 days, changing the picture. Sectors affected are mostly tourism, travel, transport, automotive, high-end fashion, but in general, supply chains are in discussion, and raw material imports from China are falling down with consequences on global prices and markets. In a nutshell, we are seeing the materialization of these downside risks. The fact that it is still too soon to measure the impact of this downside doesn't mean that we can minimize it. I think that the idea of a probable V-shaped recovery, very quick slowing down and very quickly returning up, that was presented 15 days ago, can't be given for granted and could prove optimistic. The situation that the OECD this morning described in its forecast is already different. As you know, the baseline for OECD is a global 2.4 growth, a Chinese 4.9 growth, and 0.8 growth for euro area, which is different from what we were forecasting just a couple of months ago. Just to give you an impression, because the baseline of OECD forecast is reasonable, of how strong the economic impact could prove. I want to recall that our rules incorporate several features that allow to take in account changing economic situations, including the possibility for governments to respond to unusual events. We will assess requests on this basis, obviously with a spirit of solidarity and understanding in these extraordinary times. And finally, we are working, I am working, the Commission is working, the President is working to coordinate the reaction, because we need a coordinated reaction. We will meet, the Eurogroup will meet with a teleconference this Wednesday, sharing the immediate measures taken to react to the outbreak. At the same time, we coordinated with the G20 in Saudi Arabia the necessity to stand ready, I am reading, to take further action to address these risks. And we are also in contact with Minister of Finance of the G7 to have in the next hours or days a collective response, coordinated collective response to what happens. It is time today to declare that EU is ready to use all the available policy options, if and when needed, to safeguard our growth against these downside risks. This is time for solidarity. It is time to build confidence. It is time to act. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the Corona Response Team. We will now open the floor for questions. We take questions naturally on the Corona virus. So, yes, David, please. There are two moving mics, and you should get hold of one through my colleagues who are trying to get to you. And please introduce yourself when asking the question.
Thank you, Dana. David Herzenhorn with Politico. President von der Leyen, could you say if the Commission is considering canceling any of its meetings or urging the Council to cancel the upcoming UCO summit, and especially the Beijing meeting, the Commission summit with Beijing? Will that go forward at this point, do you know?
Yes. At the moment being, there are no plans of cancelling, but this can always change by the day. I must say, I cannot say anything about the Beijing meeting, because there too we have to discuss the matter with our hosts.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Sam, there is a standing mic here for you.
Thanks, Sam Fleming from the Financial Times. Could I follow up on the economic comments that you made, Commissioner Gentiloni? You talked about the need for coordinated response. Are you effectively now suggesting that there needs to be, for countries which have fiscal space and a fiscal expansion, and could you give us a sense of the agenda for the conference call on Wednesday, please? Thanks.
Well, my understanding and what I discussed with President Centeno and other Minister of Finance, is that the Eurogroup conference call will be mainly dedicated to share opinion and information on the immediate response, the decisions, support the healthcare systems, assure liquidity to firms, and perhaps face timing of debt payments, face unemployment risks, these kind of measures. Some countries are already advanced in taking these measures, others will study them. It depends also on the situation of coronavirus country by country. Then I think we will have a first discussion on what will be in the agenda of the Eurogroup in March the 16th, which is the coordinated fiscal response. I think we should have very clearly in mind that a coordinated fiscal response needs to be very timely. You can't take it too early, you can't take it too late. So this will be, I think, the issue of the discussion, and it depends also on the evolution of the outbreak. We have different tools in our fiscal policies to adopt, but we should adopt them at the right moment and with a large consensus.
Thank you very much. Next question here.
Thank you. Roberto Tallei, Sky Italia. Madam President, as you know, several countries outside the EU, more and more actually, are banning the entrance of European citizens coming from the areas most affected by the virus. Do you think these measures are justified? And if not, are you going to use the external service, the diplomacy, to do a sort of moral suasion to remove these bans?
I think in the case of coronavirus, we have to respect decisions of different countries in the world. It is very much dependent on where passengers do come from and what the risk assessment is. If you look at our institutions, for example, or if you look at our companies, many of the companies now decide, for example, to tell their employees who come from red zones, for example, to do telework for 2 weeks at home, if not showing symptoms, then to come back to work. This is on a very individual basis, but they are, of course, relating to what the institutions in the European Union are doing with the reference to their employees. So I think respect for all the other countries this is their decision, and the same goes for what we decide inside the European Union.
Thank you very much. A question in the back.
Dan Michaels, Wall Street Journal here. President von der Leyen, about member states in coordination, policies towards things like gatherings vary greatly among member states. France has taken a very severe approach to it, and Germany is taking a much more relaxed approach. Can and should there be more coordination and standardization of policies on this issue? Thank you.
There is an enormous amount of coordination. I've been witnessing since the last 8 weeks. Outstanding Commissioner Lenarčič and Commissioner Kyriakides, who are mainly dealing with that topic when it comes to the different actions of member states. So what you have not seen is the high level of coordination, because then there is no difference and it's not obvious and visible to you. I think the decision, the local, regional or federal decision, governmental decision on, for example, at what point should meetings be cancelled, is to be respected, because of course it depends a lot on what is the situation in the respective member state, who is the audience that is coming to this meeting, and in what kind of area are we. So therefore it is to be respected, and I want to emphasize again, there has been a huge amount of coordination over the last 8 weeks. The result you can track on the website with all the information that is on there.
Thank you very much. Next question here.
Good morning. Regina Laguna, Valencia Plaza, Spanish Press. Spain had last year 6,000 6,300 deaths on common grip. Don't you think this is a exaggerating situation regarding the figures? One question. And second question...
Could you repeat? I didn't get acoustically the question.
Weren't right. Could you please speak up a bit?
Yes. Spain had 6,300 people dead on common grip last year.
You're talking about flu.
Yes, the normal flu.
Spain. Don't you think, regarding the figures about this virus, it's a bit exaggerating situation in the world? First question. Second, don't you think this is inside a commercial war between USA and China?
The second question was...
This is the result.
Okay.
The result.
I do not
of a commercial
think that
war.
it is a result of a trade war between. Not at all. I do think that. What the virus itself is concerned, being a medical doctor, I rely heavily on the experts' opinion. These are the epidemiologists. These are the public health experts, the virologists, who are experts on that topic. And as I said, being a medical doctor, I learn a lot from them. Indeed, of course, if we go into comparison with the winter flu, we have there large numbers of infections, and the death toll is at a certain level. But what we do, let's test the other mic.
Yes.
Perhaps this one is getting better. But what we should not underestimate is the fact that... Is it better for you? Okay.
Well, we try again the first one.
Better?
Yes.
So, the point that I would emphasize, it's a new type of virus. There's a lot we do not know. Of course, we are aware of the fact that there are different types of infections, sometimes without any symptoms, sometimes with mild symptoms, and, as you know, sometimes with very severe symptoms. So the virus is spreading very fast, so all these topics have to be taken into account, and I think it is absolutely plausible and acceptable that we have a cautious, alert, vigilant attitude towards the spreading of the virus, because, as I've said, it's a completely new one, and I recommend that we listen to the majority of the experts.
Thank you very much. Next question here.
Merci beaucoup. C'est Massimo pour la presse africaine. Madame la Présidente, vous étiez il y a quelques jours en Afrique, à Addis Abeba, avec une forte délégation. À ce moment-là, le virus n'avait pas encore gagné totalement l'Afrique, ce qui est le cas maintenant. Est-ce que dans un esprit préventif, vous avez discuté de cette question assez importante avec vos collègues de la Commission de l'Union africaine? Et maintenant que vous parlez de Corona Response Team, est-ce que cette structure va s'occuper aussi de l'Afrique pour ne pas qu'on en arrive à des situations comme celle qu'on a vues avec la progression de Ebola qui a fait énormément de dégâts en Afrique? Merci.
J'ai parlé dans mon bilatéral, j'ai raconté de la situation qu'on a à l'instant, ou à ce temps-là, la semaine dernière, en Europe, en ce qui concerne coronavirus. At the moment, there was one single case, and that one was in Egypt. So this was approximately a week ago. Therefore, it has been touched, but more in the way that I reported from the situation that takes place at the moment being... Excusez-moi, j'ai changé en anglais. J'ai raconté de la situation qu'on a à l'instant en Europe. En ce qui concerne... Je crois que l'Union africaine est à tous les mois de répondre immédiatement. Bien sûr, comme nous avons une très très proche collaboration, nous sommes toujours ouverts de raconter de nos expériences, ce qu'on a fait bien et ce qu'on fera mieux peut-être la prochaine fois, parce qu'on ne veut pas que les autres doivent répéter comment dit-on, les mistakes, les erreurs, merci, les erreurs qu'on a peut-être fait ou les pas qu'on a fait trop lentement. Mais comme j'ai vu, l'Union africaine, elle est complètement capable d'établir son mécanisme, mais nous sommes tout près de donner toutes les expériences qu'on a fait nous-mêmes.
Merci beaucoup. Next question here.
Is working? Yeah. Galavati in Kronos, Italy. It's just two questions. One for Commissioner Vălean. It's on transport, because many airlines have cancelling flights on a daily basis because of a drop in demand. You said that the EU rules apply for reimbursement. Does this mean that the passengers who get their flights cancelled are entitled also to get the compensation of 250 to 400 euros per flight or not? And the second question for Commissioner Gentiloni, if I may. The Italian government announced a package of 3 billion something to help the distressed areas. I wonder if you are ready to give this flexibility to the government, and if you think that it will be enough. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Vălean.
Yes, on passengers' rights, in the event of cancellation, which happens, of course, the first thing for the airlines is to reroute and reimburse. The question of compensation is a separate one. Here, of course, passengers would have the right to a compensation if the cancellation, if they were not informed about the cancellation with at least 14 days before the departure. Yet compensation is not due if the cancellation, even at short notice, is caused by extraordinary circumstances which could not have been avoided even if all reasonable measures had been taken. And there is a discussion that the coronavirus situation might fall under this case. So the outbreak of coronavirus, the health-related reasons, could fall generally under this exemption. Yet the assessment is made on case-by-case basis and ultimately under the authority of the Court of Justice of the European Union. Worth also recalling that the EU legislation on passengers' rights does not cover the situation where passengers decide voluntarily to give up on travel, to renounce to a flight, for example, or to any other transport service that is regularly operated. And here, this is on contractual basis between the traveler and the company, and it has to be according to the commercial rules enforced in a way. I think this answered the question.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Gentiloni.
As you know,
he moved back.
Okay. No, as you know, the now rules we have this clause concerning unusual events, circostanze eccezionali in Italian, and we will consider the Italian request, which is for sure based on these extraordinary circumstances, and we will consider this, as I said, in spirit of solidarity and understanding of the situation where we are. So I think that this is my positive answer. As far as the amount is concerned, I think it's a proportionate response to the emergency, but I imagine that Italy and other countries will have to face both emergency issues and more long and medium-term problems, but this is at the time not for the Commission to discuss, at least not for single countries, but only on the aggregate level.
Thank you very much. 3 more questions on Corona. I see Virginie first.
Oui, bonjour, Virginie Malingue du Monde pour le commissaire Gentiloni.
If you could speak up a bit, Virginie, the acoustics don't help.
Bonjour. Oui, vous avez dit que vous étiez prêt à utiliser toutes les marges de manœuvre qui existaient d'ores et déjà dans la régulation budgétaire, dans les règles budgétaires européennes, pour aider les pays membres face au coronavirus. Est-ce que vous pouvez préciser un peu plus de quoi vous parlez ? Est-ce que vous pouvez préciser un peu plus des marges de manœuvre existantes aujourd'hui que vous pouvez utiliser, dans quelle mesure, de quelle manière, etc.
Je dis très clairement que nous devrions être prêts à utiliser tous les outils qu'on a pour faire face à cette situation. Il faudra le faire dans le moment où la nécessité sera la plus claire. C'est très difficile aujourd'hui de dire, à part les mesures extraordinaires dont on va parler peut-être à l'Eurogroupe de mercredi, qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire des mesures de plus long terme. On a des exemples très extrêmes de ce qu'on a décidé dans la crise financière de 2008, mais j'espère vraiment qu'on n'arrivera pas là. On a une possibilité d'avoir des mesures plus différenciées entre différents pays sur l'utilisation du fiscal space. On doit aussi savoir que la crise et la difficulté qu'on a est une difficulté qui provient du côté de la demande et du côté de l'offre. C'est un peu plus pour le moment une difficulté from the supply side et ce fait rend la réponse fiscale pas exhaustive. Il faut avoir une réponse fiscale, mais il faut savoir que c'est une difficulté qui mélange les supply éléments et les éléments liés à la demande sur laquelle la politique fiscale peut être très utile. Il faudra une réponse coordonnée avec une politique fiscale plus supportive. Je ne sais pas si on dit en français supportive, en anglais on dit supportive, mais la manière de différencier entre pays ou de généraliser cette réponse doit être décidée dans les prochaines 2 ou 3 semaines en relation aussi à l'évolution de la situation.
Merci beaucoup. La prochaine question, là.
Estonian Public Broadcasting, Eppe, and I wanted to follow up the possibility of economic help. You already mentioned that concerning supply problem, it's harder to do anything. Is there anything at all, actually, EU could do to help it? And you mentioned that the level of risk has risen in EU. Is there some point you consider closing some regions or borders, or is it absolutely not the topic?
No, this is not under consideration, and it's not us who have said that the risk has risen, but it's the ECDC. So we are very much relying on the experienced agency we do have that monitor on a hourly basis the development and have a lot of experience how to deal with disease prevention and preventing the spread of infectious diseases. So here we are really relying on the experts.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. On the economy, I think Commissioner Gentiloni said many things. If he wishes to add something, he's welcome, but I think he provided the answers from all facets on the economy. David.
David Carretta, Radio Radicale in the back. Thank you. President von der Leyen, you said that coordination is the key right now. But if you look at the response by the different EU member states, we cannot see coordination. In Belgium, we have some measure, I would say quite liberal. In Italy, other measures. In France, other. Even between European institutions, I can access here but I cannot access, for example, to the European Parliament if I'm fonctionnaire, civil servant of the European Parliament, because yesterday I was in Veneto. But not in the red zone. Okay? So I'm following the rule by the different. It's quite difficult for. So what's the problem on that? And the second question, if I may, to Commissioner Kyriakides, you said that the situation in Italy is different from other countries. All other countries. Do you think that more controls or stop Schengen freedom of movement would be wise right now, since, for example, the 6 cases today in Belgium all comes from Italy? Thank you.
So very briefly from my side, because it's once again Commissioner Kyriakides who's the expert in it. I've witnessed this over the last 8 weeks, a huge amount of coordination. And you touched upon a few questions. Yes, there's a difference between the European Parliament and the European Commission, only what travellers from the yellow zones in Italy is concerned. Otherwise, we're completely on the same page what the actions we are taking are concerned. But there's a huge coordination, not only between the 27 member states and their respective regions, but of course with the World Health Organization and the ECDC on what measures have to be taken. What we do not see are all the many work strands that function, where we have complete coordination, because thanks God, there are no differences, there are no problems, so they are not visible. And with that, I would really like to give the chance to Commissioner Kyriakides, who has done an outstanding work on these health issues, together with Janusz, where are you, on this topic over the last 8 weeks, and perhaps you might at the very end once again say something to the coordination of the crisis management.
First of all, I'd like to say 2 words on the coordination and your point that different member states seem to be taking different measures. But as I said from the very beginning, the situation concerning COVID-19 is not the same in all the member states. And this is evident also from the ECDC and WHO Region Europe assessments we have had. Saying this, we have coordinated and with all member states that they all have their level of preparedness in place, so that with the rapidly evolving situation, you should be able to adjust to what measures you're taking. But it would not be, I think, possible for them to be all taking the same exact measures when we have member states which so far do not have cases, and we have others which have evolving cases. So it is a day-to-day readjustment, but the important thing is that we are coordinating what everybody is doing and what needs to be done in this changing situation. As for the situation that you mentioned with Italy, in the EU at the moment we're at the point of containment. Containment means that what we are doing is early diagnosis, contact tracing, and following up from that on. So each member state has their action plans in place, and they decide according to their situation what measures they should be taking. Thank you.
And yes, Commissioner Lenarčič.
Thank you. Just to add very quickly, one has to distinguish between coordination and imposition. There is a part of the website, roles and responsibilities, where you will find the details about the responsibilities. So at this point, let me just say the following. On most of these issues, the Commission has a coordinating and supportive role. But the responsibility for measures taken lies with the member states, on health issues, on other issues. What we try to do is we try to keep information flow so that everybody knows what the other is doing. We try to issue recommendations, but ultimately it's the decision of the member state. Yes, they differ, but why do they differ? Because as Commissioner Kyriakides said, the situation is different in different member states. But we believe that the measures to be taken to be taken need to be proportionate, need to be relevant for the situation locally and then for the state. Yes, there are questions like why don't we ban travel, close the borders. These are harsh measures, but the effectiveness of them is questionable. So in short, I think that all measures that need to be taken have to be sound and based on scientific evidence, need to be proportionate and taken in a coordinated manner. Thank you.
Thank you. The very last two questions from two very patient colleagues. First of all, the colleague from ZDF, and then Maria here.
Yeah, Gunnar Krüger, ZDF, German television here. Just two questions to President von der Leyen. How can EU give further support to Greece and Bulgaria?
Try to use the mic.
Sorry? Try it again. It's on. It's on now. How can EU give further support to Bulgaria?
So our priority is to give Bulgaria and Greece all the necessary support they need in handling the situation on the ground, because the challenge that Greece is facing right now is a European challenge. And therefore tomorrow I will travel together with Charles Michel and David Sassoli, so the representatives of the three European institutions, to Greece, visit the Prime Minister, and together with him, after consultation, visit the border area to assess on the ground what can be increased, what the support is concerned. Yesterday afternoon, the Greek authorities asked increased support from Frontex and triggered the so-called rapid border intervention mechanism or intervention team. In other words, we are working very closely now. Frontex is working very closely with the other member states to provide border guards and equipment for Frontex to bring it to Greece and to support the Greek authorities. And the second part of your question is, well, I acknowledge that Turkey is in a difficult situation concerning with regards to the refugees and the migrants. But what we see now cannot be an answer or a solution. Therefore, we establish a more and more intensive dialogue with Turkey through all different political levels to, first of all, find again common ground what the situation for the refugees in Turkey is concerned, and to discuss where support might be needed, knowing that we do have an agreement in place where we stick to and which we think is the right basis to start the dialogue. Within the next days, Commissioner Lenarčić will go to Gaziantep, or the area of Gaziantep, to look there what can be done as support also for the difficult situation of the refugees which are between Idlib and the Turkish border, what humanitarian aid is concerned too.
Thank you very much. Very last question from Maria. Please keep it short. We are over the time.
On the same topic, Mr. President, I'm Maria Psaraf with Euronews. First of all, who is going on behalf of the Commission there besides you, and what's the political support that the Commission can provide to Greece and Bulgaria? Yeah. And second question, how would you answer to all these speculations saying that the Greek people were left alone during the weekend defending the European border? Thank you.
So first of all, there is tomorrow, to answer your first question, tomorrow the representative, we're patient. Tomorrow, yes. The represent.
You want this?
This is a good idea. Thanks. Yeah. So, tomorrow the representatives of the three European institutions, the Parliament, the Council and the Commission. That is President David Sassoli, President Charles Michel and me. We're going together to Greece to show the full support of the European Union. As I said, the challenge Greece is facing is a European challenge, and Greece has our full support. Over the last days, there has been a lot of support on the Frontex side, and of course the ongoing support for Greece in the refugee camps in Greece itself. As I said, Greece triggered, and this is rightly so, the Rabbit mechanism, which is important to bring additional border guards and additional equipment to that what is already in place in Greece. And of course, whatever is needed as special measures or help, we are very open to respond, and we are in close cooperation. I've been in contact all these days with several phone calls per day with the Greek Prime Minister to support and to coordinate as much as possible in this evolving situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.
Voilà. Could you do me a favor and take the papers on the ground, which I smashed and...